And the yellow copies go back to the clerk at the end of the meeting, please, and thanks. Okay, so we're back live. And we are recording again. Okay, so the motion that comes to the floor is moved by Councillor Gorell and seconded by Councillor Olkey that council rise and report from in camera, and that the committee of the whole recommends the council approve the direction provided to staff as provided in camera. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Okay. Back to this agenda. Okay, next item on the agenda is staff reports. Finance report SR-098-22, information technology manager position. Motion comes forward from Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Gorell. The committee of the whole recommends that council approve the permanent full-time position of information technology manager to be funded within the current 2022 approved operating budget. Discussion on the motion. No, go ahead, Councillor Gorell.
Thank you, and to you, your worship. Just a couple easy questions. Where would, who would that IT person be reporting to? In other words, we were presented with a very fine, let's see, a report in March 14th, 2022 from our CAO, Steve. And it highlights very, very clearly the various departments and the various positions. So if we were to look at that report, where would this IT person be and to whom is that person reporting directly? Thank you.
CAO.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to Councillor Gorell. The IT position would report to Director Tyndall as part of a corporate services kind of thing. And it's seated there in that Kate currently has responsibility for the IT function. So it just makes sense that it would just remain under her responsibility.
Go ahead, Councillor Gorell, for a follow-up.
Yes, just let's see. Just out of curiosity, would it not make more sense to have that person reporting in the administrative line of situation? I'm just curious. We're told that people are overworked and so on, and we're adding a person to the finance department, at least in terms of reporting. It would strike me as it would be more of an administrative area, but no, never mind. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, your worship, where does this leave us with our current
Head count.
contract with SICOM?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll actually call in Director Tyndall for that. Director Tyndall, do you want to speak to our continuing contract with SICOM, please?
Through your worship, so the contract with SICOM would continue as it is, providing managed services. They provide a wide range of expertise and currently do a whole pile of different jobs for us, including back office support, help desk support, and managing basically our infrastructure for us. However, the new position, as outlined, is more of a strategic position as well, able to do our policies, which are out of date, help provide direction going forward, where SICOM's maintaining what we have. We currently aren't looking forward, trying to come up with strategic plans and priorities as outlined in the service delivery review. So this position is going to help us to proactively manage contracts like we have with SICOM and other IT providers, but SICOM would still have a role to play to provide that back-end support for our infrastructure, our backups, our security, all the things that they're currently doing.
Councillor Gorell, you have something to add?
Yeah, just one final question. Thank you. And through you, your worship, under the financial implications, it hasn't been uncommon that we receive these reports late in a year, and the discussion about the financial implications is for the remainder of the current calendar year. what would be the financial implications of this full-time employee if it was taken beyond the scope of this 2022 budget remainder? So what would we be looking at for 2023? Thank you.
Director Tyndall.
Through your worship, given the retirement of a full-time finance employee, Jackie Yonkman, that's happening later this year, the budget impact to 2023 for the addition of this position will be minimal.
Just a follow-up question on that. I was told this committee was told some years ago, probably last year, that there was an additional person brought in, and the idea that we had a retiring person was used at that time to justify that position. And I'm sure I could dig that out of the vault. So what we're really looking at here is another full-time employee coming on board. And as I said, the retirement of one employee was already used as a get out of jail card previously. So what would be the financial implications in terms of salary levels, entry level number 1, 10, whatever it would be in the charting of the governments? Thank you.
So just to clarify, Councillor Gorell, you're looking for a salary range for this person?
Yes, because there had been a discussion about that very briefly. And I just would like to know what this township is looking at when they're going into the hiring process. Put some guardrails on this because to suggest that it's so much money here for 2022 is less than adequate, excuse me, for moving forward realistically. So thank you.
I'm going to recognize CAO. The CAO has his hand up. Director Tyndall, and then I'll go to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I believe the hiring of the new the current deputy treasurer was done as part of the succession planning process for seeing the upcoming retirement of the incumbent deputy treasurer, who is now the tax collector supervisor, financial supervisor. So that was done for succession planning at that point. So there was an addition of an additional salary done then. And now the addition of a person with the deputy treasurer, the former deputy treasurer, Jackie Yonkman, retiring in November, the increase in the compensation line item of the budget, there's no impact with the addition of the new person as an IT manager. So it washes at that point.
Okay. Director Tyndall, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's good.
Okay. Any further comments or questions in regards to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. And the motion is carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is planning report SR-096-22. Report to recommend bylaw for administrative monetary penalty system and associated updates to property standards, safeguards, canine control, noise bylaws. Motion comes forward from Councillor Gorell, seconded by Councillor Olkey, that Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve bylaw number 22-044, being a bylaw to establish a process for administrative penalties. Number 2, bylaw number 22-045, being a bylaw to establish and appoint the positions of screening officer and hearing officer for the purpose of implementing the AMP bylaw. Number 3, bylaw number 22-046, being a bylaw to prescribe standards for the maintenance and occupancy of property within the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. Number 4, bylaw number 22-047, being a bylaw to provide safe properties for the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. Number 5, bylaw number 22-048, being a bylaw for the licensing of dogs. Licensing, am I saying that correctly? Sorry, I'm guessing myself, of dogs and prohibiting the running of large dogs within the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands. And number 6, bylaw number 22-049, being a bylaw to control noise within the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands, in the form attached to planning report SR-096-22 as exhibits A, B, C, D, E, and F respectively. So the motion is now on the floor. Any comments or questions? I've got Councillor Rowell, and then I've got Councillor Fody, and then Councillor Meady.
I'd just like to say, I think it's an outstanding report. And I know I believe we've been looking forward to this for a couple or more years. And it clearly explains where we've been and where we're headed. So thank you very much. It's a very fine report.
Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I concur with Councillor Grell. It was a great read, lengthy as it was. It gave me a lot of comfort in knowing that the staff are protected in their own realm of their duties. They can actually inflict penalties where they belong. The bylaws actually have teeth to them now. It was almost disappointing, and we've seen this here before. Bylaws that were thought to be in place were not, and now they will be. But other than just the staff, who will be in the more of a comfort zone with this being passed, but our residents will see the fallout of this over due time. So I applaud you for creating this. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Meady.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. I also think it's a great report. Glad to see all the details that were put into it, and that we have a little bit more teeth, possibly to correct some issues that we keep getting calls about for different things, and that we're taking a great step forward to getting that, and that there's personnel that are going to be able to implement it. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And we're carried. Next item on the agenda is planning report SR-090-22 amendments to the, yeah, I've got the right one, sorry. Amendments to Schedule C, building permits of the general rates and fees bylaw to establish fees for septic permits and application review and update general permit fees. Motion comes forward from, I need a mover, as Councillor Olkey had signed this and he is no longer with us. Deputy Mayor Lackey. Okay. And seconded by Councillor Burrell, that the committee of the whole recommends that Councillor approve the bylaw attached to Exhibit A to amend general rates and fees bylaw 21-061 as amended to establish fees for septic permits, update the base permit fee and construction values and general administrative amendments, and that the building fees evaluation amounts for determining the cost of construction be updated annually based on the increase in the consumer price index, and that the amendments become effective October 1st, 2022. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. It's great to see, and I think due to the cost of living and things increasing and trying to consolidate some of this stuff, as well as the septic bed installation for us to look after, it's part of the whole thing. I did have a couple notes that I made here as pool installation, not building permit item, and I'd have to look it back up, but I did write that down. I seen it at the time. And then the other question was double fee for no permit, question mark. That's
So through you, just for clarification with the pool fee, that's just the fee for installing a pool, putting in a pool. Was there a question around?
sorry, and through you. Pool installation, not building permit item, and I thought it was a building permit item, but I wrote it down, so I obviously caught something in it, and I haven't got it right in front of me at this minute either. So again, something that can come back to me. I'm not even worried about that one.
And sorry, second question.
The other double fee for no permit.
Yes, so there was a double fee previously. The fee would be doubled if someone was caught doing construction without a permit. About a year and a half ago, we brought a recommendation forward to council to reduce that fee, to cap it at $2,500. Given the amount of staff time that's been spent in the last 2 years through enforcement and the significance of some of the construction that we have found being done without permits, capping that fee at $2,500 doesn't allow us to come anywhere close to the cost that we're putting into following up with enforcement, potentially going to court.
Mm.
So it's proposed to remove that cap and leave it at double the fee.
Okay,
So it's reinstating the fee to what it previously was.
thank you.
The other note, which I believe was in the report, was in regards to this very same motion that's come forward with it has a bit more follow through with it because it's coming forward to be approved. Previously, it was a recommendation that these fees be increased based on, the increase per year, but it wasn't actually a bylaw. So this is why it's important that it gets formalized so that it actually gets done. It was recommended previously, but never enforced. So the planning department, and part of the reason that it's been publicized to the general public that this is happening is so that people understand that this is a cost recovery basis. The general taxpayer shouldn't be bearing the cost of other people not following the rules. And that's generally what this is. And so the hope is that it will help incentivize people to follow the rules in the first place, I should say. Anyways, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to go back to the first question about a pool. I found what you were referencing. So the permit fee for a pool is $150, increasing from $140. And then there is a fee plus the deck. So if someone is building a pool and they're building decking around the pool, there's an additional fee based on the decking, based on the fees that would be calculated for a deck.
Councillor Fody, I think you had your hand up and then.
Thank you, Your Worship. I seen myself the plus side, I guess you will, of bylaw enforcement. I just checked the date. It was 2 weeks ago, Friday night. I was heading home. It was about 5:15. And I saw our bylaw enforcement officer overseeing a crew of workers in an abandoned property that needed to be brought into a caretaking position, to be polite. And so I wheeled around and went back just to have a chat and kind of poking fun at the fact that, do you know what time it was? Do you know the fact that it's 28 degrees Celsius and it is Friday night? But the residents need to take comfort in the fact that our staff, bylaw enforcement included, take their job seriously. They didn't punch out at 5 o'clock or 1:45. There was easily another hour's worth of work left there. And I could tell by chatting to the people hired as well as talking to our bylaw enforcement officer that nobody intended to leave till the job was done. So by ensuring that our staff have the bylaws, the guidelines, penalties, fee structures, as our director just told us, when we cap some of these out, we have no idea. We may cap out the dollar feeling we should be somewhat kind, I guess, to residents who are unkind by not following the guidelines in the first place. So, if we need to remove these caps and let the financial chips fall where they may, so be it. But I do want to give a hats off to all those who uphold our bylaws and try and then enforce them when they're neglected. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, if I could just add to that, going back to the previous report with respect to the bylaws and the updates to the property standards bylaw, the situation you're referencing is a perfect example of why it's appropriate to add the 25% administrative fee to the cleanup, because currently there's no administration fee. So when we have a number of cleanups ongoing right now, the bylaw enforcement officer needs to coordinate those and is required to be on site under the authority to allow the workers to do the work. And we haven't been recouping any of the costs associated with that. So she was there that particular day from 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock.
And just to footnote that, some people get what's the word I'm looking, frustrated with sometimes the lack of progress on some of these property standards issues. There is a number of steps in the process that we must follow. We follow them. And then when we go to actually do, potentially in this particular case, a cleanup, the other thing that the general public may not understand is that there's not a bunch of people lining up to do this kind of work. sometimes actually finding the contractor. I know there was one incidents where a property was left with a lot of garbage. There was vermin, there was a bunch of other things. There's not a lot of companies that want to come and do that. So sometimes it's just actually getting people to commit at a reasonable rate. Because yes, we can put some of this stuff back on taxes, on tax bills and what have you, but it's sometimes just getting a body to be able to do it. So we appreciate the public's patience and that we are actually dealing with things proactively, though it may not be perceived that way. We've probably got more files on the go than they have in many years. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you to you, Your Worship. Just looking at the recommendation, the second paragraph, attaching it to the increase, a yearly annual base increase on the consumer price index. Reading the report, I forget what it's called, but it was the annual building fees, et cetera, put out perhaps by the province or a larger organization. And it says that the CPI is actually less than the organization that I'm trying to think of, Altus or whatever it is. Is the consumer price index really the way to go here? I'm always up for an increase based upon some rationale, not a problem at all. And I guess I'm just questioning using the CPI as the rationale. It was mentioned in the report that it's the lesser of the big numbers. But I still do question whether that's the way we really want to go. You could bring a report to me and I would just read it as a rational person, go, yeah, it needs to increase. But here we are tying it to an annual increase, and I'm just a little uncomfortable about that, I guess. Thank you.
So I think it's a really good question, and it's one I asked myself in terms of preparing the recommendation. In looking at the construction cost increases and the indexes that are provided as an attachment to the report against the CPI, yes, the CPI is lower. I think what's really important to note is we're in a bit of a transition in the building department right now in terms of bringing on new staff, incurring the septic inspections. So we're going to be incurring some additional costs coming up. I think this is going to need annual monitoring, to be honest, because we have to monitor what our building reserve fund is, make sure that we're covering the costs of administering the service. And if there's a year that it doesn't make sense to apply an increase, we'd bring a recommendation forward to council and say our building reserve fund is in good standing right now. We're recouping the fees we need to be able to run the service, and maybe we don't do an increase this year. So I think that it's going to take annual monitoring. I'm just going to have to stay on top of it and bring recommendations back to council if needed.
Or it could go the other way, meaning that we're not keeping up and we could actually increase them further.
If we don't have the reserve fund that we need, then we would have to re-examine our fees. And that's something that we're going to have to do on an annual basis. And we have the regular reporting requirement under the building bylaw and the building code act that we bring back a statement of revenues every year. So we can look at it and adjust if necessary.
So the sentiment is that it's not set in stone, that we can revisit this on an annual basis.
And just a final question and perhaps a recommendation. Instead of just the blanket consumer price index, is there, and I don't expect you to know the answer to this, but perhaps there is in StatsCan another more specific type of index, separating out, the cost of fuel and food and everything else that might be more appropriate. I don't know. It seems like kind of a odd rationale when you're talking building materials and all that goes into building. That's all I have to say. If we're comfortable with the consumer price index, so be it. Thanks.
Any further comments or questions? I don't see a hand waving on the screen from Councillor Jameson. Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. I am going to put us on a brief recess. You've got 7 minutes till 7:30, just so that we can have a washroom break and a relief break. So back at 7:30. Thank you.
Are we on?
7:30. And we'll continue on. We're at 6.4 planning report SR-101-22 zoning bylaw amendment application number D14 2022-007 applicant Timothy and Janet Ketchum, subject property Fitzsimmons Road 08128112-025-14801 application to amend zoning from ANSI to ANSI special exception. Motion comes forward from Councillor Olkey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lackey, that committee of the whole recommends that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment attached to planning report SR-101-22 as Exhibit E to rezone a portion of the subject property from area of natural and scientific interest, ANSI, to area of natural and scientific interest, special exception, ANSI-2, to permit a residential use. Discussion on this motion. Go ahead, Councillor Grow.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. Not in any disagreement with this whatsoever, but a curiosity. I was always under the impression that ANSIs and so on were provided by Ministry of Natural Resources and Fisheries and so on. And therefore, I was curious about our role in this. Thank you.
Thank you. So our official plan has policies that identify the ANSIs and the areas of the ANSIs. We also have policies that say that you can build within an ANSI if it can be shown through an environmental impact assessment that there's no negative impact on the ANSI. So in a situation like this, we work with the Conservation Authority, who also has regulations that would apply in this situation. So then based on the environmental report that was prepared for this, the consultant identified an area on the edge that was outside of all of the influence areas where development can occur without having negative impacts on the ANSI. As a condition of the consent application, there's a development agreement that's required that also implements any of the recommendations. So minimizing tree removal, maintaining fallen logs and different things like that to make sure that there's nesting habitat for rat snakes and different species that may be found in the area. So with those measures in place together with the zoning amendment, development and impacts can be mitigated and located in a certain area so that it lessens any impacts.
So just removing ourselves from this particular recommendation, if there was an ANSI or if someone had a property that was, and a chunk of it was designated as ANSI, they don't have to give up necessarily. They own the property there. And my scenario would be they're not asking to sever anything. But if they did an environmental impact study, is it possible that you could build something within an ANSI using the same rationale we're talking about here?
Yes.
I'd never heard that before. That had never been presented. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further comments or questions in regards to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Deputy Mayor Lackey, your camera is off just in case the general public wanted to see your shining face. We can see it here. So next item on the agenda, information items, administrative report SR-097-22 mid-year update. Moved by Councillor Olkey, seconded by Councillor Burrell, that the information item be received and filed. Discussion on this motion. No hands are shooting up. I would just like to say that I'm very appreciative of the work that's being done at the senior management level and all levels of our employees, but that the plans that are coming forward and being executed despite delays with materials, delays with certain grants, delays with a number of different reasons, that we're still pushing ahead and moving forward. There's still been quite a bit done on the roads operations department side. And I know that that's very forward facing and a lot of people see that, but not only is that happening, but a lot of the internal stuff that needs to be done, the policies, and you're seeing some of that come forward tonight. These are things that have been sort of pushed aside, for lack of a better word, because often the fires burn brighter and we deal with those first, but we're dealing with the things that will make it easier to not have those fires in the first place. So just commending all the staff members, including the CAO, to make sure that these things continue to work forward, and that we'll do the best we can with this year. And the rest of the things that we can't get done will continue to move forward, whether it be this year or next year. So any further comments or questions? I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Okay. Unfinished business, number 8. Go ahead, Councilor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Director Holliday, I know that I had asked about a road counter to be placed on Abrams Road. Just wondering when that's may be happening. Thank you.
Director?
Thank you, through your worship. Abrams Road, we actually already have set a road counter up on it. I unfortunately do not have my road counts with me at this moment, but I will get you that information.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other unfinished business? I have Councilor Gorell and then Councilor Wilkie.
And through you, Your Worship, if I could ask the Director of Operations to, would it be possible to get any information on the traffic calming measures provided by those lovely speed signs that we purchased? There must be some literature there. David, would it be possible to, if it's handy, can you email me some of that literature?
Through your worship, are you looking for the manual on the signs that we're using, or the data provided from the signs?
What I was wondering is, it's mentioned that they're traffic calming measures. I have no doubt they are, but I just wondered if there's some written material that we could provide to the public.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that.
Great, thank you very much.
So just based on what Director Holliday said, the signs themselves actually provide data on how it affects traffic, correct?
That is true. From the signs, we're able to gather, what our traffic counts are during specific times, what the speed of the traffic is, 85th percentile, which is the standard for traffic counting in speed. We're able to provide that information to the OPP. So if there are some times, as an example, when people tend to speed more than others, we can provide that information, and they can provide enforcement during those times. So yeah, that information is available.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other unfinished business? Sorry, Councilor Wilkie, my apologies.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, this pertains to a query that I had placed with the CAO about update of minutes in our records back on June 16th. I'm sorry to spring it on you like this, but it was a nudge, a very strong nudge I got from a resident before coming here this evening. The resident says that formerly you could research the agenda item, the minutes were there, and the video was synced to the minutes. This doesn't seem to be the case now. And that this system was going to be updated. And is there any status or change to this?
I'll have the clerk answer that.
Thank you, through your worship. I am more than willing to look into this and provide an update to that residence if you do provide me their contact information.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other unfinished business? Okay, we'll move on to other business. Any other business? Councilor Maybe?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Since we're getting back to kind of a normal possible population within the chambers here, and when we go in camera to the room at the back here, I have noted on several occasions that the soundproofing of that particular space is not really adequate for some of the stuff we may discuss. And to that end, there are some other gaps within the walls that let noise move around. So I wonder if there should be some sort of check on how we might be able to mitigate some of that sound transfer.
Director Holliday?
Thank you, through your worship.
Go ahead.
We're actually looking at doing some work with the building as a whole anyways, so we can certainly look into those at the same time.
Yep.
We have some capacity issues, or we foresee some capacity issues for staffing, so we're looking at some some rearranging and additional growth accommodation, I would say, to just to be able to move people to where they need to be. So as part of that, certainly soundproofing can be part of that review.
No, that would be wonderful, and I appreciate that very much. I do have one other thing.
Go ahead.
Again, the past weekend was very successful. Thank you, Mayor, for coming to 3 of the events that I was participating in, as well as our other events that we did. The weekend was very well received by many. And as Councillor Fody had alluded to at one of our conversations, the great weather that we had. So again, thank you to all who participated, all the volunteers that certainly put on these events, Sealy's Bay included, since council went out there for their Canada Day parade, and it was a wonderful event. And thank you to all the residents who did attend and participate in all the Canada Day festivities. Thank you.
Councillor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Further to Councillor Maybe's comments about going in camera and the lack of security, if you will, for noise. Years back, I used to sit on a board and we went into privacy, as it was referred to then. They played music out for the general public to literally keep them from hearing. That's what it was all about. The volume was preset. We got lots of comments. The music wasn't that appreciated, but it wasn't meant to appease them so much as to deafen them. And it wasn't that loud, don't get me wrong on the volume. But I think it would be a real easy way to fix the problem. We
Temporarily.
just set up a temporary music sound system, hit on until we disappear and or come back.
Fair point. Yeah, elevator music.
But Your Worship,
Yes, go ahead.
I've got a mixtape from 1975 that I'd be happy to donate. Thank you.
Councillor Jameson, now you're fibbing because there was no cassette tapes back in 1975. That would be an 8-track.
I want clarity. Yeah, so I was going to ask the same thing. Is it an 8-track?
Oh.
Reel to reel. Don't we have a reel to reel in the
Oh
building?
my goodness. We probably could scare one up. It's probably in the safe. Anyways, good point and a great option to temporarily fix the issue. Any other business? Seeing none, I'll go forward with notices of motion. Any notices of motion? Any notices of motion? No notices of motion. So we'll move forward to the mayor's update. So just wanted to thank the town of Gananoque for inviting myself to come and speak at Joel Stone Park for the Canada Day festivities, along with the Mayor Loico and other esteemed guests. It was nice to see people out and about. We had the speeches in the morning. They had a number of events during the day. I was also invited to speak on behalf of the municipality at Ribfest at 2 p.m. and then back at the waterfront where they had free concerts on the night previous to before the actual fireworks. And it was really great to see so many people out and about in the town of Gananoque, engaging with businesses and, patronizing all of those businesses. We really do appreciate the people that are coming in from outside of town, but also the residents of the town and the township who make a point of going and attending these events. They're very important. Both the Rotary Club and the Lions Club worked very hard to pull off a very successful Rib Fest. Again, there was music along with the vendors that were there, and I can only imagine that it will get bigger and better once again, every year over year, which leads me to the festivities in Sealy's Bay. So Sealy's Bay, once again, put on their Canada Day, albeit on July 3rd, which I think stuck in many people's craws because it had been always July 1st. But nonetheless, people came out in droves, and it was really great to see the enthusiasm of all the participants that came for the events, as well as the parade, and then the fireworks that night. So kudos to the Lions Club out in Sealy's Bay and the Sealy's Bay Area Residents Association who helped out with other individual events, and all the families that came out, as well as the Legion, who had a band as well. It's great to see so much community spirit, but the thing that touched my heart was the retirement of Russ Thompson's Lion's vest. So that's been framed. Not quite sure where it's going to hang, Councillor Jameson, but or is it going to the family?
I really can't tell your worship. We'll probably find out at the service at the end of the month.
Fair
Thanks.
enough.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I got thinking about this weekend that, how do I say this delicately? The number of individuals who help with these service clubs, the average age is much older. And I'm quite concerned that the number of young people, young adults, or people in their middle age, if you will, who haven't committed themselves to some of these very important service clubs. And, I think the sad part about it is that there's so many great friendships that are started through those clubs, and the camaraderie. And yes, they're tiring weekends, but a very smart man said to me recently that the reason that he stays in this community is because of the relationships that he's formed through the volunteer work that they have embarked on, both him and his wife. And I think that speaks to the special nature of any community and why it's important to engage yourself, because, you can live anywhere, but it's how you live. A roof is a roof, but being part of the community means more than just showing up and partaking. Sometimes it's good to give back. So I thank all of those who did work hard over the weekend to help pull off these very important events that we got to enjoy. So a couple of other things. I wanted to remind everybody that Lansdowne Fair is happening on July 15th, 17th. Very much looking forward to seeing that return after 2 years. There's also a free concert at the Rockport Customs House down in Rockport on July the 20th from 7 till 9 p.m. Bring your own chair and come and enjoy a nice concert out on the dock, if you will. And we really appreciate all the individuals who are helping organize that. Lastly, two things that are near and dear to my heart. I just want to commend all the ATV riders that are out there doing it safely, wearing their helmets, watching the traffic, staying on the trail, staying out of farmers' fields, which leads me to my last point. There's some pretty fields. I won't disclose where they're at right now because they're in full bloom. And there's been some posts on Facebook about individuals at large wandering into farmers' fields, whether it be a cornfield, a wheat field, canola field, what have you. Please, please, please do not go into farmers' fields without permission. It happens in the fall. People take corn stalks. It happens in the summer. They take wheat as decorative things. Canola is kind of the new sunflower crop, if you will. People go into sunflower fields and trample and jostle things. And these are very detrimental crops. And while I appreciate that everybody thinks it's great photo opportunity, there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up in fertilizer, fuel, seed, everything that goes into planting that crop. And while it doesn't seem like a big deal when you're trotting down a few plants, but if 100 people do it, it makes a big difference. And there's a protest going on in Europe right now, farmers being very upset with their government and the general public. And there is such a small margin for farmers to make money. Something as simple as trotting on a crop is a big deal. So I'll just leave it at that and appreciate that people respect property owners' rights. And it's a no trespassing rule. It's not your property, don't go on it. And that's all I'll say about that. So anyways, I hope everybody has a great summer. We are off at this point for the month of August, and we will reconvene in September. And just to also indicate that the nomination period closes August the 18th for the municipal election. And at that time, that will be when municipal election signs are allowed to be erected. Oh, and lastly, July 4th, just wishing all of our American friends a happy July 4th. It is their special day today, and I'm sure we'll be seeing some fireworks from afar over in Alexandria Bay or Clayton, whichever they switch days, so or dates year over year. So if you're hearing any of that go on, that's today is July the 4th, and we thank all of our American individuals who own property here to enjoy and celebrate just the same, and thank them for coming up here again after a long 2 years. And I think that's it. So with that, I have a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Olkey and seconded by Councillor Gorell, that the committee of the whole adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Thank you.